Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of Patriot Seal Millworks. You guys remember that video of the swing we painted a couple weeks ago? Well, a lady reached out to me and basically she wanted her own. She wanted something very similar to the one we did, but she wants her own. She wants a custom swing with a custom backrest and everything, but everything else is the same as the one we did. So we're going to get that started this morning. It's really early. I just got off work and I'm a little tired, but need to get this kind of started. She's not in any kind of rush for it, but I want to go ahead and get it started, kind of get a jump start on it. So that's what we're going to do. Go ahead and build the frame of it, the bottom part of it, because I know what it's going to be. So so we're going to go ahead and start that. So close enough. These 4x4 posts have got some sort of red, powdery dye looking stuff. I don't know what this is. Kind of all over them, and what looks like dirt or something from the factory. I don't know. But this red, all this red powdery looking stuff, it sands off okay, but it's really like it takes a minute to sand it down. So that's kind of what I'm doing. I got the glue in my hand because this knot right here has a big gap, and I'm afraid that if I tried to do anything to it, the knot would pop out. So I put some glue in it, and then I just kind of sanded on top of it, and that kind of seals it in there really good, and now it's nice and smooth. So I've got a couple little spots like that I need to fill in. But that's kind of what I'm doing right now. I think I'm going to run these through the planer just to kind of see what it does. Because, like I said, this red stuff is just not wanting to come off as easily as I was hoping. And I need these to be as clean as they can be, because this lady wants the swing to be stained instead of painted. So I forgot to mention that in the opening of the video. She wants this stained to match another chair that she has. It's going to be in the same area. So anyways, I understand that. I'm not mad about it. I'm just saying that sucks because painting it would be so much easier. So now I've also got to match the stain, which is going to be tricky. So anywho, but yeah, so I think I'm going to run these through the thickness planer, and then hopefully that knocks off this red stuff. If you guys know what the red stuff is, if you know somebody who works at a mill or something, please let me know, because they got to stop doing that. It's killing me. I don't know what it is. Well, the thickness planer didn't really help my situation. I still got this red stuff kind of all over, and I'm assuming this is like from when the tree was alive, or was still in the ground, I guess. This is some kind of, I don't know, deformity maybe in the bark. I don't know, maybe just in the color of the tree itself. So it's not really too big of a deal. I'll just put this kind of on the bottom so that no one ever sees it. That's kind of the great thing about stuff like this, is you can always put the ugly side. There's always at least one ugly side, but you can put it on the bottom or like on the inside where no one's ever going to see it. So that thickness planer, like I said, didn't really help me out. It took out this chunk right here, and it messed up one of the knots right there. Took a chunk out of that, so it's okay. It's not, like I said, this is for an outdoor swing, so it's not going to be a huge deal. And like I said, I still got 3 okay sides, so it's not going to be that big of a deal. So we're just gonna roll with that, and then we're just gonna sand down the rest of this to make it look nice and pretty like. board has got a lot of red in it. I don't know why or where that came from. This is supposed to be just pine, so I don't know if it's red pine, if that's a thing. I don't know. I'm not very good on. I'm not an arborist. I don't know my trees. I probably should, but I don't. So I've gone ahead and decided on which sides of these boards I was gonna have showing. So basically, the way it's sitting right now is how it's gonna look. So not 100%, but you know, basically it's gonna look like that essentially. All the prettiest sides are gonna be facing up and out, so that you don't see all these ugly red. Well, ugly when it's stained, pretty when it's not. I feel like because once you get a brown stain, it's kind of a brownish color. Once you get that brown stain on here, that's gonna look real weird. So, not to mention, these 4x4s are already kind of on the red side, even without all this red dye looking stuff on it. There should be more of this color, being that it's pine, but it's not. It's more of like a kind of a light red color to it, pigment to it. So, anyways, so this is gonna be our frame. I went ahead and made these cuts here for this, and that's about it. I mean, the next step is getting it all screwed together. I've got to go find the screws for these bolts. I use lag bolts, like big, like 6-7 inch lag bolts into here for the supports on this. I originally wanted to do some fancy cutting on that, but we're not gonna do all that. Save that one for another fun project. So, but we're gonna go ahead and get these drilled, get these in here, get these anchored down, and then we'll do the inside frame. First thing I'm gonna do is make a mark on the boards, on the insides of the boards where the cross members are gonna land, so that we have a good reference point for when that time comes. So basically, when it's laying like this beam is gonna sit right on that line, on the outside of that line. I show it to you, but you're way over there, and I don't feel like moving you. So that's where that's gonna sit. However, these are the bolts that I have that are the right thickness and they're the right size. They're just not long enough. That's why. You only got like maybe about 1.25 inches into this wood, and that's not really enough for me for comfort. I don't really like it. I like it longer. That's what she said. So anyways, so we're gonna get some longer bolts, and that way we know that we're good. But I can go ahead and drill our holes, our pilot holes for these bolts to go ahead and go in. I can even go ahead and run these in, and then build the rest of it out, and then just get some longer bolts. And when I get longer bolts, swap them out. That's all I gotta do. So we're gonna probably do that just to save some time. That's the mark that I made there. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put our board right here on the inside, just to that mark there. To ensure that this thing stays square, what you want to do is take you some square, these are basically just really hard plastic squares that I got off of Amazon. You're going to want to basically just clamp it down, and this will ensure that the board stays square with each other. Don't put it on there super tight, because you're probably going to have to move it. And that way we know that it's square. You should be able to run your fingers across that and you not really feel much of a change. You're going to feel a gap because there is a gap there, but you won't feel a super real bad level change. It should be pretty good. You should also be able to take this square and run it across there without any problems. Now that we have this squared up, the next thing you're gonna want to do is put drill a hole right here in the middle of this piece of wood so that we can drill into this piece of wood. So good thing I checked. This is the first hole that I drilled. It was a 3/4, and as you can see, that doesn't fit. But I happen to have a 13/16 spade bit, or paddle bit, or spoon bit, whatever, and it fits perfect. So we're gonna roll that one. I went ahead and drilled out all the holes and mounted everything. I do definitely got to get some longer bolts. Those are probably like, I don't know, a 1/2 inch too short. They need to be really about another 1/2 inch. It'll be probably pretty good. So the next step is we're going to frame out this inside here. We're going to put, she didn't really specify what she wanted on the butt part of it. So we're just going to do the exact same thing that I did on mine. And we're just going to we're just going to nail a 1x on this part all the way around. And we're just going to put slats in the middle. So that's what I did on mine. I assume that'll be good enough for hers. So I will let you in on a little secret. I originally did mine longer, the butt part of it longer, or I guess deeper maybe. I originally intended on ours to be like one of those bed style, but my wife didn't want that. She wanted one where she could put her feet on the floor. I didn't really consider it because she actually gets motion sick really easy, and I didn't really think about laying in the bed and swaying. She'd be puking. So that makes sense why she didn't want the bed style. She'd rather put her feet on the floor. So I guess if you get motion sick, think about that kind of stuff. But so for this one, I went ahead and made it the perfect depth from front to back, so that I don't have to worry about it being too deep for you to put your feet on the floor. That's kind of a part of having a porch swing is you want to be able to reach the floor so you can swing yourself. So my G-Love. All right, we're back after a couple of days off. Needed the rest. I say that, but it's like 2 o'clock in the morning now. So, anyways, I went ahead and pulled out the bolts that I had in here, the 4.5 inch lags that were in this frame. I went ahead and pulled those out, and we bought some 8 inch bolts that we're going to use instead. I went ahead and drilled out the holes for the proper size. These are 3/8 by 8 inch, 3/8 of an inch by 8 inch bolts with a 9/16 head on them. So it's quite loud, so that's why I went ahead and did that before I started recording, so I didn't have to try to cover this up with some random music only for just a few minutes, or for like 20 seconds. Believe it or not, it's quite hard to find music, such a short music song or whatever, for just a short period of time. But anyway, so I went ahead and did that, and I'm going to go ahead and screw these back in, the 8 inch ones back in, and I'll probably just stop the camera for that, just because I ain't trying to have to do all that. But I did want to show you the difference in the bolt size. That's how different they are. This one's a 4.5 inch, and this one's an 8 inch. I laid out my tape measure right here. That I don't know if you can see or not. And I dropped my speed square on the floor. Sorry about that. Anywho, so so we're gonna put this all back together. But also, while I have it apart, I'm going to drill some pocket holes in here, just to kind of give it a little bit more structural support, kind of not pulling it apart necessarily, but wobbling it back and forth, because there's only one bolt going in to either end. It can still rock back and forth, if that makes any sense. So we're gonna we're going to structure it up a little bit and put those on the bottom so you'll never really know they're there. So I've gone ahead and taken my Kregg table jig, or table set, whatever this thing's called. It's made by Kregg. I went ahead and took this part out. There's a little bolt right here. You just unscrew the bolt and this pulls right out. Not a big deal. But I pulled that out because these 4x4 posts won't fit in here without taking this off and moving it back. And I'm not trying to do all that right now when I can just do this. And also have this handy dandy little clamp that Kregg makes that is auto adjustable. So you clamp it down right here and it stays like that, locks into place. But you can also clamp it onto here, which is a 4x4 post. And it clamps onto there too. So it clamps no matter what. This thing does work. I don't know how it works, but it does work. So went ahead and drilled the first two holes here, these pocket holes. So I'm going to do the next one. What I did do though is set this where it needed to be as far as the depth is concerned. There's a depth gauge on the side. I'll leave a link in the description for the Kregg jigs and their website, or you can get them, of course, at Home Depot or Lowe's. And I'm sure you could probably get them at like Ace or Tractor Supply or whatever too. So you definitely don't want, so this drill bit will go all the way through if you let it. But if you set it correctly, it should not go all the way through. And I'll explain how pocket hole screws work here in just a second, after I drill these. That thing is hard. Even still, you shouldn't go all the way through. I know mine won't, but I don't want to put my hand at the end of it for obvious reasons. And I drop that. If you don't drop it on the floor, you didn't do it right. All right, so the way that the pocket hole screw works, it's got this real big head on it, real flat right here. And so basically the way this works is, obviously, you have your worm, or whatever this is called, the tip right here, and then you have this kind of flanged part right there. So obviously the whole thing makes a hole. The worm is for the screw head, for the screw itself, and then of course these flangy parts here stop the head from going all the way in. God, so many innuendos. All right, so anyways, that is what that does. So, and I'm gonna shut up now because I can't say that without laughing. I can't. That's what she said. I couldn't help it. One thing that I am going to do is clamp the frame together to make it easier to drill it all together. Yeah. So there's a lot of people on YouTube that I'm sure you can find that tend to use clamps for everything. And I'm not saying like everything, but they overuse clamps, it seems like. So there's kind of like an ongoing joke that there's people who use clamps a lot. People that use clamps tend to use a lot more clamps than what seems to be necessary. And I can see the humor in that because it is kind of funny. But at the same time, I can see at times why they would use multiple clamps, what seems to be way more clamps than necessary. But I do see a lot of woodworkers using a lot of clamps, and it's kind of comical sometimes. I think it's fun. Makes me laugh. using 2.5-inch screws, which are probably the longest ones that I'm aware of that they make. I don't think these things are really designed to go in like super high-tech long applications. So just like in real life, you got to find the hole. And once you find the hole, you can drill your screw in, and then you can go by the way it sounds to know that you're doing it right. And you'll the louder it is, once it flattens out, you'll be able to tell the difference. Like on that one, I missed the hole. Where's that? There it is. Yeah, I felt that one. You can feel when it hits the hole just right. For the next step, what we got to do is we're going to cut this down, and we're basically going to put it inside of here. And this is what the flat pieces that go for basically where your butt's going to sit. It sits on top of that. So we're going to cut it for the length of this. It doesn't have to be exact, but it needs to be pretty close. So, when I say exact, I mean it doesn't have to be like on the mark. It doesn't have to be squeezed in there, but it needs to be within like 1/8 of an inch. So it's going to be fastened to here, so it's not really going to do anything, but it is holding the majority of your weight. So this is just a 1x1. Believe it or not, these can hold up to like a couple 100 pounds. So I mean, as long as the swing holds you, you don't got to worry about these breaking. This thing is warped really, really bad. I dropped my speed square. Dang it. Alright. It's my favorite one, and I dropped it. I don't know if you can see that little spot right there on the corner. A little bit of like 120 grit sandpaper. Fix it right up. I don't like dropping things, but it happens. Next step is what we're gonna do. These are just cuts from the slats that we're gonna use. These have already been ran through the planer, so from previous builds. So we're just gonna use these as kind of a template to assist us with setting our new 1x's that we just cut. I'd never seen these before. My wife bought these somewhere for $3. Aren't they cute? Yeah, they work. stop block for the bottom part, I guess, where your butt's gonna sit. I went ahead and set up stop blocks so that we could cut those slats to length. We're gonna cut those, and then we're gonna run through the thickness planer to get a nice, good, smooth, clean finish on them. To kind of talk a little louder because it's raining outside. I don't know if you can hear me very well. I hope you can hear that it's raining outside, not just yelling at you. But anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and lay all these out. I don't think I'm gonna fasten them down yet, just because I'm not 100% committed to that just yet. So, but I am gonna go ahead and lay them out, and hopefully it works out. These are my little spacers that I went ahead and made. Like I said, it's got to be a like 1 3/16, just a hair shy of 1 3/16. So.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know any man named Kurt. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know any man named Kurt.
They ended up laying out pretty much exactly where I wanted them to, so I'm gonna go ahead and commit and probably regret the decision. But taking these little spacers and just kind of double check random ones just to make sure that everything's kosher. It looks fine. That one moved on me just a little bit this time. Everything looks good. So I'm gonna go ahead and nail it, and hopefully nothing moves in the process. Alright, y'all, I'm getting tired. I'm going to go ahead and call it for the night. The next step is we're going to rip a 2x4 with a 7.5 to 8 degree slant on it, and we're going to build on top of that. If you guys like what you're seeing so far, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment if you want. Find me on Facebook at Patriot Shield Millworks, and then also you can shoot me an email at patriotshieldmillworks1350@gmail.com. That's patriotshieldmillworks1350@gmail.com. Feel free to share this video with your friends, your family. Send it around. I appreciate that. Every view helps, and every subscribe also helps. Y'all be good. I'll see y'all in the next one.